Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, it's John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. We are approaching the holiday week, so the market's kind of slow this week, but we'll check in and see what's going on. But I do want to say this might be my last video before actual Christmas, so Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays to everybody out there. Quickly before we get started, just a really fast reminder, if you appreciate what we do here and you're looking for a way to support the channel, just check out the description below. You'll find a few ways. Our Patreon page is linked there. You'll find links for products on Amazon. If you make any purchases once you go through that link, anything you buy will get a small percentage. And then finally, Flipside Gaming, still giving a promo code for our viewers. Maybe save yourself some cash and support the channel at the same time. With that being said, let's get into it. We're going to talk about Standard first and the top 5 cards that have lost value this week. Okay. So, Standard is super slow. That hasn't changed. It's been that way now for a few weeks. Everybody's waiting for Rivals. Rivals previews officially began a week from Monday. So, it's going to be a little bit slow going for another week probably until people start seeing more cards and start thinking, okay, maybe I want to brew this, maybe I want to brew that, and some other cards in the secondary market might start picking up. So, we'll watch for that, of course. Now, some people will wait even further. Some folks are going to wait until they see the first couple weeks of competitive play. Some will wait for the Pro Tour. So things are going to gradually start to swing up within a couple weeks here. But let's see what's losing value right now. As you can imagine, it's a lot of the high price cards. Number 5, Chandra Torch of Defiance, down 73 cents to 32.43. Chandra is an awesome card. We've seen her time and time again. She's showing up in energy decks. She's been in Ramonap Red. She's been in Marduk Vehicles. Huge part of the meta, not just this time around, but even the previous couple times. So does she go away with Rivals? No, of course she doesn't go away. But there's a lot of copies of her out there. And a lot of the players who have bought into Standard now, they have their play sets of her. So expect her to continue to go down. Now, a good showing in, say, the Pro Tour will always perhaps bump any of these cards back up for a short period of time. But I think generally she's going to be trickling down. Now, long term, like after she leaves Standard, there will be a foothold for her in some formats. I mean, she sees play in Legacy Big Red. She sees play even in Modern in decks like the current version of the Land Destruction deck anyway. So there are places for her. So do keep that in mind going forward. But again, nothing to justify at least the price point versus the amount of supply that's out there right now. Number 4, Hostage Taker, down 74 cents to 6.29. This card is everywhere when it comes to supply. It's a rare from Ixalan. A lot of copies have been printed. We're now at the end of December. The set's been out for a while. People have been drafting this set for a number of months at this point. So you can imagine there's a lot of Hostage Takers out there. On top of that, it is seeing a little bit less percentage of play in Standard than it was seeing maybe a few weeks ago, like towards the beginning of the meta. And that's for a couple of reasons. One of which, some of the decks that it was in that were popular, a little bit less popular now. Secondly, the decks that were running it, and at first they were running like 4 ofs, they found that it's better to run maybe 3 or 2 ofs this card because there are times where it's not a good draw for you. So because of all those things rolled into one, this is coming down actually pretty sharply, and this will continue to drop, if nothing else, due to the high supply. Number 3, Torrential Gearhulk, down 90 cents to 12.77. Okay, I know some people hate when I say this, but again, there are a lot of copies of this card out there. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you that. They print a lot of Magic cards nowadays. It's not like it was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago. There's a lot of product out there. So even the best cards that have the highest demand, they're going to have a really hard time maintaining the price point. This is a perfect example of it. This was a $30, $35 card not that long ago. Now here we are, it's down to $12.77, and it will continue to fall. Does the card see play? Actually, yes, it does. It's showing up now in energy decks and actually performing pretty well. So you add that along with some of the control decks that were out there running it prior. Now, the card did take a hit a little bit thanks to a Braid coming into the format. That did hurt this at least slightly. But it seems to be rebounding pretty well when it comes to actual gameplay. Price-wise, though, with a high supply, it's not really rebounding at all. Number 2, Vraska Relic Seeker, down $1.06 to 13.63. She's been coming down quite a bit, and I feel like she's been coming down maybe a little too rapidly. If she can put up a good showing early on in the next meta or at the Pro Tour, she could bounce back a little bit. But right now, the big thing that's been hindering her, other than the print run, of course, of Ixalan, has been the fact that the Abzan token decks have started to disappear from the competitive scene. I mean, you still see them at Friday Night Magic and stuff, but they're not quite as popular as they were at the beginning of the meta. This card's still great, though, in like Sultai Energy, and is still seeing a lot of play. I don't think that's going to change going forward. And number one, it's actually been number one for 4 or 5 weeks now, I think. The Scarab got down 213 to 32.67. So again, all the things I mentioned about some of these other cards are true here too. There's a lot of copies floating around in the marketplace. But the difference with this card, though, is the fact that it is highly, highly played. It's in major demand. Shows up in a lot of different energy decks. Shows up in a lot of mid-rangey decks, even control decks. There's a lot of people that want this card. And there's a lot of players that, even if they're not currently playing with it, are thinking about the future metas and just want to have play sets just in case, right? This card so far I don't think is going to translate too well into the life after standard, at least from what we've seen so far. But at least right now, this card's pretty hot, and even though it is incredibly hot and very, very playable, it's still having a really hard time maintaining its price point, and you'll see that over the coming weeks. This will continue to go down. I think this will be below $30 within a week or two, quite honestly, at this point. So beyond that, the card's also very good in Commander. That's going to help it keep its price at least somewhat, because it is very, very popular in Commander. All right, let's move on to the cards that have gained value this week. So unlike the pretty substantial losses we just saw, you're not going to see a lot of cards going up in value here. And as a matter of fact, the cards that are going up in value aren't even going up due to standard. They're going up for other reasons. So let's take a look. First, I want to start off with an honorable mention, because this is technically not legal in standard anymore. But Aetherworks Marvel is up 6 cents to $1.26. And this is indicative of what we're going to see on the list today. Great casual card now, awesome for some Commander builds. And you're going to see a lot of that theme as we go through the list. Number 5, a Johnny Valiant Protector, up 4 cents to $4.44. So this is the first of actually 3 Planeswalker deck Planeswalkers we're going to see on the list today. So when you're talking about cards going up 4, 5, 6 cents, they probably could have been almost anything. But it's interesting. I think it's a pretty cool indicator that it's these cards. This card is awesome in some Commander decks. I've seen this played in +1/+1 Matters decks, and it's actually pretty sweet there. So yeah, it goes up a little bit this week. Number 4, here's another one, Gideon Marshall Paragon. This is up 5 cents to $4.23. Okay, again, not a large increase here. It's not really telling us that much, but I will say this. There are people still trying to brew Gideon tribal decks. I see it all the time, deck lists showing up on different sites, and they're not giving up. So who knows, maybe some point somebody gets it right, or maybe the meta shifts enough that it actually can find a foothold. If that's the case, who knows what could happen with this card. But I do think that's kind of a long shot. And I do think that the card itself is really going to be more of a Commander card or a casual card more than anything. And it's a cool one, though. A lot of players are happy to pick this up just for their Commander decks. Number 3, Exquisite Archangel, up 6 cents to $1.06. Another card that's awesome for Commander. Great there because you have a higher starting life total. Number 2, another Planeswalker deck, Planeswalker with Nissa Genesis Mage, up 6 cents this time to $4.06. So again, not a large increase, but an awesome casual card nonetheless. Number 1, probably no surprise, As Foretold, up $1.40 to $9.23, not because of standard play, but because of modern play. So, hot deck alert for December, As Foretold Living End. I've talked about it for a couple weeks now. This is the 3rd week in a row this card's been number 1 on our list. This is a deck that is not a new deck. I believe Emma Handy did an article last summer on it for Star City Games. But it's gotten pretty hot recently. Some streamers were playing it online. There were some people doing some articles on it. And it's been putting up some decent results. So there's a lot of attention on it right now. Can those results maintain into the new year? That's the big question. If they do, wonderful. The sky's the limit for some of these cards. But we'll have to wait and see. All right, speaking of Modern, let's move on to Modern. With the cards that lost value this week, as you can imagine, you're going to see at least a few cards that have been reprinted in Iconic Masters. Now, we're not going to talk about Iconic Masters or Unstable in this video because we did do a video exclusively on those sets yesterday. If you missed it, I'll link it at the end of this one. But let's get into the other Modern cards. Coming in number 5 is the original Aether Vial from Darksteel, down $1.15 to $39.87. Aether Vial has been incredibly hot recently. Obviously, it got another surge when people were trying to put together the November Hot Deck of the Month, Humans, which is still doing very well. And now that that has kind of waned a little bit, a lot of the demand is kind of stabilized. Now you have all the extra product coming in from Iconic Masters. So there's a ton of that out there. The market's very saturated. If people want Aether Vial, they can get an Iconic Masters one for around $30. This one is going to cost you a little bit more if you just want to have the older version of the card, but it will continue to go down a little more at least, I think. Number 4, Ancestral Vision from Time Spiral, down $1.18 to $25.73. Another card that was reprinted at Rare in Iconic Masters. So kind of the same story here. Also, too, a couple interesting things about this card. Percentage play-wise, it is seeing less play in recent months than it has been seeing in Modern, so that's going to hurt it a little bit too. However, it is in the As Foretold deck, so maybe that will even out in the wash. Number 3, Greater Oromancy. This one's down $1.31 to $25.17 this week. A few weeks back, I think it was the weekend of December 3rd, there was a Star City Games Modern Classic where there was a enchantment deck that came in 3rd place, and this was part of it, at least on the sideboard. So this saw a little bit of excitement around the beginning of the month, and now it's just kind of going back down again. But you never know. If that deck pops up again and does well in a big tournament, then a card like this, considering it's a Shadowmoor rare, could spike because the print run for Shadowmoor was notoriously low. Number 2. Wow, Tarmogoyf. We're going to talk about all 4 versions today. Modern Masters 2015 down $1.07 to $68.65. Modern Masters down $1.30 to $76.46. Future Sight down $1.32 to $93.68. And Modern Masters 2017 down $1.45 to $65.54. So this card is just hemorrhaging value. Anyone who waited for Tarmogoyf, I'd wait a little longer. But I think we're getting there. Like, I could see this card maybe stabilizing around $60, $65. Feels like the right price point for me. I don't know. The card doesn't see as much play as it used to see, but it still sees play. It's not like it's gone away. I mean, look at Abzan decks in Modern. I mean, it's in Legacy decks, it's in Vintage decks. The thing is not gone, but the price points, considering the amount of reprints it's gotten, even though they were mythics in a Master set, the card is still very accessible right now. So, put it all together, you're seeing major losses for Tarmogoyf across the board. Number 1, Engineered Explosives from Modern Masters, down $2.37 to $45.99. Another really big card, great sideboard card in multiple formats, but it has seen a little bit less percentage of play recently. Alright, let's move into the top 5 Modern cards that have gained value this week. Coming in at number 5, Chalice of the Void, up $1.53 to $77.07. This is the Modern Masters version. And this card needs a reprint, maybe in Masters 25. If that's the case, perhaps we see some stabilization. But this card is comfortably sitting around that $75 to $80 mark, and it has been for quite some time. Number 4, Scalding Tarn, up $1.58 to $66.31. Demand and supply-wise, this is one of the more exciting fetch lands. And you see this on our list from time to time. This week it goes up a little more. Key part of mana bases for decks in Vintage, Legacy, and Modern. Number 3, Snapcaster Mage. 2 versions here. Innistrad up $1.46 to $53.97, with Modern Masters 2017 up $1.82 to $57.77. And there's actually a nice disparity between the Innistrad and Modern Masters version at this point. I don't know if it's the art, if it's supply. Innistrad didn't have a huge print run when you compare it to like Return to Ravnica Forward, but it didn't have a bad print run either because it was very popular. So considering it was a rare in that set, maybe it's a supply issue that's holding it around that $50 mark. It's really been held there for a while. Modern Masters 2017 version, even though I'm sure there was a lot of that printed too, it was a mythic and it has the new art, which is actually quite striking. So maybe that's why it's a little higher. Just interesting to kind of watch that. Now, Snapcaster just generally got a little attention, not because it's just an awesome card just all the time, but again, that Star City Games Classic that happened on December 3rd, it had a Jeskai Geist deck come in first place. It was a really weird tournament, which goes to show you how awesome Modern is right now. And that runs Snapcaster in the main, so it did get a little more attention a few weeks back. Number 2, Karn Liberated from New Phyrexia, up $2.28 to $69.24. I mean, Karn's another card just really needs a reprint. It's awesome in all versions of Tron that are out there in Modern. And number 1, you probably guessed it, Living End, up $2.46 to $21.84. Second week in a row, this has been number 1. And yes, of course, it's a key part of the As Foretold Living End deck. All right, let's move on to Legacy. So things were a little bit slower this week in Legacy. There were a few interesting things to point out. Let's look at the cards that lost value first. Number 5, Bayou, is down $21.45 to $357.11. Good sign when you see the dual lands on these lists because it means things are relatively stable. Number 4, Force Field, another card from Unlimited, down $22.26 to $149.99. This is just normal stabilization for this card. Number 3, Gwendolyn Daicorsai, down $34 to $125. So this was a target of a buyout last week, and it looks like perhaps the cards are already being reintroduced into the market as we see a pretty nice drop already. So I do think this will drop probably for the next week or two. but it's not going to go back down to where it was prior to the buyout, unfortunately. That's just how these things work. Number 2, Drop of Honey, down 45.51 to 379.99. This card's starting to fall into what I would consider more of a fair price point for it. It was highly undervalued for a long time. There was a little bit of attention on it due to the fact that there were 2 in the sideboard of the Lands deck and Legacy. That attention turned into a buyout. That buyout pushed the price really high, but since then, more copies have been reintroduced back to the marketplace. So does it go back down to where it was? No, probably nowhere near, but I could see it coming down a little more maybe. Number 1, Scrubland from Unlimited, down $49.98 this week to $190. Okay, let's move on to the top 5 Legacy cards that have gained value this week. Coming in at number 5 is Blaze of Glory from Unlimited, up $25.54 to $40. Pretty nice percentage increase, if nothing else, for this card, although you do see some of these weird ups and downs from cards in Unlimited just generally, again, just due to scarcity. Number 4, City of Brass, up $29.41 to $230. This, of course, is the Arabian Nights version, which was the target of a buyout, but came down quite a bit recently as those cards were reintroduced into the market. Takes a little bump up this week. That could be it just trying to find its normal price point after the buyout. We'll have to see where it goes from here. But again, this is not a reserve list card, and it has been reprinted many times if you're looking for a cheap copy. Number 3, Mishra's Factory from Antiquities. This is the winter variant, up $29.91 to $129.06. So this is a hard to find variant. Antiquities cards just generally are getting harder and harder to find. But the reason I think this is in the spotlight, at least right now, is because it's the holiday season. It's winter time. So I think that always draws some attention on this card. Kind of like All Hallows Eve when that goes up around October 31st every year. So part of the reason, though, this year, I think has to do with the fact that they had the rule through January 15th that you could use silver bordered cards within Commander. And there are some people that decided they were going to go out and try to buy up like the silver bordered holiday cards and get other random things like this and Goblin Snowman, stuff like that, and kind of build a winter-themed deck. There was a little bit of that going on. So this week, this has some more attention on it. We'll have to kind of see where it goes. Number 2, Diamond Valley, up $42 to $5.40. Very similar story here to City of Brass. This was the target of a buyout. It got sold back in. The price point came back down. Now it's going up a little bit this week. I think it's trying to find its natural price point. And number 1, it's Tundra from Unlimited, up $114.04 to $3.99. Now, this card actually went down last week, so it's just bouncing back this week. Okay, we'll close things out with 3 notable cards. 2 of them are actually return cards from last week that I just wanted to check in on again. The first one is Academy Rector from Urza's Destiny, up $3.91 this week to $59. Now, I featured this card last week because it had a pretty hefty increase. It looked like maybe the target of a buyout. And we'll have to kind of wait and see. I mean, I do see this card show up occasionally in Legacy here and there, so it's a card that does see at least a little bit of play. But beyond that, we'll have to see if this starts going down next week or if it actually finds a stable price point up around the $60 mark. All right, next is a foil variant card. I usually don't talk about these on the Market Watch because a lot of times listings for these can be very, very misleading. And I say this all the time, but just be really careful when it comes to hard to find cards, and those could be promos or just really old cards like Power 9, or cards that are just like foils that are hard to find because there's not a lot of market data out there on those cards. Usually there's not a lot of listings, not a lot of sales, which means somebody could really inflate the market by putting just unrealistic listings up. And we'll talk more about that in just a second. But this card feels pretty stable and actually has been on our list before. This is Tarngarth Telrune Hero, and it is a plane shift foil variant. Something interesting they did in that set where there were some foil cards that actually had alternate art on them. This was one of them. This is up this week $23.48 to $89.47. Interesting commander card or cube card. Just wanted to point it out to you. All right, and let's check in finally with Bazaar of Baghdad. We talked about this at length last week, so I want to kind of keep it short this week, but it's up $582.53 to $2,500. So long story short, about a week ago, Rudy from Alpha Investments did a 2-minute video on YouTube to kind of prove a point as to how volatile the market is. And he just quickly said he's going to do one of 3 things within 24 hours. He's going to either buy out all the Bazaar Bagdads, or he's just going to go and do nothing. Or the third choice was he already bought them, and he's just going to tell you that he bought them and perhaps sell them back if the market goes up. Spoiler alert, the answer was he already bought them. We didn't know that last week, but that was the answer. So what happened? Well, a few things were going on. First off, just that video alone just got a lot of attention on the card, a lot of interest. People started putting listings up at ridiculous prices, and that's what you saw here. So this $2,500 price point is not actually sold cards. These are just incredibly high listings for cards, and people aren't going to sell these things at $2,500. It's just simply not going to happen. Now, the card was super undervalued. I will give you that. It will never go back down to where it was before all of this happened. But it was kind of a wake-up call in a lot of ways to people maybe interested in the card. This will start to go down, and it will probably go down within a week or so or less at this point. You are going to start to see these ridiculous listings come off or be lowered and stuff like that. So they will go down. Now, a lot of speculation as to where these listings came from. Don't need to get into all of that. I think that's just too in the weeds. But could it have been people potentially trying to inflate the price? It could have been. Or it could have just been people seeing Rudy's video and just getting crazy and putting up really high listings. I don't want to get too deep into the conspiracy theories of that. But yeah, bottom line is don't buy this card for $2,500. If you can find it cheaper, wonderful. You can find, it's hard to find mint copies of the card anyway because it is such a hold card. So remember, this price point and all the price points we talk about are mint copies. So that can also be a little misleading. Usually when you find a copy of Bizarre, it's probably heavily to moderately played normally, 99% of the time. But just keep that in mind too. So anyway, we'll see what happens to it next week. Long story short, I don't expect it to stay at this price point. It'll be coming down pretty quick. All right, with that being said, hey, that is it for the Market Watch. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to everyone out there. Thank you to everyone who supported the channel again for another year. Always appreciate it. Until next time, thanks for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe. Have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.